I used to think silence was a choice. Now I know it can become a sentence. Every morning I wake in the same dimly lit room on the far edge of the city, where the houses are too old to sell and too sturdy to collapse. My home is clean, though time has gnawed at it like a patient animal. The wallpaper has paled, the wooden floor creaks, the curtains hang tiredly, but everything is in its place. I keep it that way. Order is the last realm still under my command. I am 73. To some, that means irrelevance. To most, it means invisibility. In the supermarket, I linger by the fruit aisle longer than necessary, just to feel the air move around me, to remind myself I still occupy space. No one meets my eyes. Their gazes slide past me as if I'm a coat rack. A smudge. A memory someone forgot to clean. My children, successful, wealthy, always in a rush, speak to me as if checking off an obligation on a digital list. Their voices are bright, controlled, efficient. My grandchildren greet me out of habit, distracted, their attention already claimed by screens glowing in their hands. Hi, Grandpa. Goodbye, connection. At the clinic, a doctor waves a dismissive hand and tells the nurse, take the old man. He probably didn't hear what I said anyway. They speak around me. Over me. Never to me. My days are predictable, tea that grows cold before I finish it, a worn blanket on my knees, a muted television flickering with faces that never notice me, and the small notebook I keep on the table beside me. I write in it sometimes, thoughts, observations, memories, though lately the words feel heavier. As if each one pulls me downward. It isn't loneliness. Loneliness is a wound you feel. No, this is erasure. I feel myself fading like an old photograph left too long in the sun. Every year, a little more of me dissolves. Or so they think. But beneath the layers of dust and silence, something burns. A coal that refuses to die. Once, it was warmth. Now it glows darker, hotter, fed by the steady drip of disrespect. By the coldness of those who owe me their very shape in this world. They believe I am done. Softened. Defeated. They are wrong. I am silent, yes. But silence is not surrender. It is the inhale before the storm. And I do not forgive anymore. I wasn't always a ghost drifting through hallways of indifferent faces. There was a time when people leaned forward when I spoke, when the weight of my decisions shaped the skyline of this city. I built my first company with hands still calloused from factory work. I slept only a few hours a night, ate standing, lived between deadlines and negotiations. I thrived there, in that pressure, in that chaos. Some men break under responsibility. I sharpened beneath it. I remember the 90s. Brutal years, hungry years. My children were small then, and the world felt like a wolf with frost on its breath. While others fled or folded, I stood my ground. I borrowed money when banks refused to trust anyone. I stared down partners who tried to betray me. Once, I confronted a man in my office late at night, after he siphoned funds behind my back. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten him. I simply laid out the consequences of dishonor. His hands trembled. Mine did not. I was a modern samurai, not with a blade, but with strategy. With discipline. With an unbreakable code carved into my bones. I saved my family more times than they could ever understand. I protected them without being asked. I paid for my daughter's education by refinancing my home. I funded my son's startup when banks laughed him out the door. When my wife fell ill, I kept the household together piece by piece, even when exhaustion blurred my vision. Yet memories age poorly in the minds of others. People forget the hands that lifted them. Now my phone sits silent, an artifact more than a tool. No calls. No messages. Once, my number was on speed dial lists of mayors, partners, union leaders. Now it is absent even from my children's favorites. The world has grown enamored with immediacy, the glow of the present moment. Gratitude has become a trivial relic. And those I carried through storms now walk effortlessly under clear skies, never glancing back at the man who held up their horizon. But I remember. Every debt. Every betrayal. Every sacrifice buried under their convenience. And the ember inside me grows brighter. The cruelty of life is rarely grand. It comes in small doses, microscopic cuts that bleed inward. Yesterday, I called my son. The phone rang 6 times. Then voicemail. He didn't call back. Later, I saw him post a photo online, smiling at a restaurant. He had time for wine. Not for me. My grandson visited last month. I asked him to help set up a new lamp in my study. He smirked, a thin, condescending curve of the mouth, and said, "Come on, Grandpa, it's not that hard." The boy I once carried on my shoulders now speaks to me as if I'm a malfunctioning appliance. At the clinic, a nurse patted my shoulder and shouted slowly, "Do you understand?" I hear fine. What I don't understand is when I stopped being a person to them. Last week, a bag tore in my hands on the sidewalk. Oranges rolled onto the street. I bent down, knees shaking slightly, to pick them up. People walked around me, annoyed, impatient. One man actually stepped over an orange and said, "Move." No one helped. But I saw them. And I wrote. In my notebook. The date. The street. The faces. The words. Not out of pettiness. Out of precision. Pain is a dam. It fills, drop by drop, under the illusion of safety. But water is patient. And eventually, even the strongest barrier fractures. That crack is forming inside me. It happened 2 weeks ago. A moment disguised as an accident. I was walking back from the market when my foot caught the edge of a broken sidewalk tile. I fell, hard. My bags burst open like wounded animals. Frozen dinners scattered. People laughed. Someone muttered, "Useless old man." Another added, "Why is he even out here?" That word, useless, pierced deeper than the fall. Inside me, something clicked. Not loudly. Not dramatically. A cold, deliberate switch. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I simply stood up, brushed the dirt off my sleeves, and walked home with the calm of a surgeon entering an operating room. And when I reached my house, I went to the safe I had not opened in years. Inside lay the artifacts of my former life. A phone that still contained numbers no one else had. A black notebook filled with contacts and secrets. And folders, archived, dusty, but potent. People forget how long influence lasts. Connections don't die, they lie dormant, waiting for a purpose. As I sat at my old desk, a familiar sharpness awakened behind my eyes, the mind that once orchestrated companies, negotiations, empires of responsibility. My fingers trembled, not from age, but from anticipation. I found the names of men and women who owed me favors. Those I helped avoid ruin. Those who built their careers with my quiet guidance. People who live in skyscrapers now, but who remember who carried them through the mud. I made the first call. Then the second. Then the third. My voice changed, calm, steady, undeniable. The chessboard was set once more. And I, forgotten and underestimated, moved my first piece. I am no longer the grandfather they overlook. I have returned to the version of myself the world silently hoped would never resurface. I act quietly. Strategically. Elegantly. An anonymous leak here. A correction to an investor report there. A well-timed phone call that tilts the balance of a stable company. I don't need to harm anyone. I simply reveal what they already are. My son loses his position after an internal audit exposes practices he should have known better than to hide. I didn't fabricate anything, I merely guided the right eyes to the right place. My grandson's contract for a gaming sponsorship collapses after someone anonymously shares his mocking video about old idiots. Funny, how quickly brands distance themselves when the mask slips. Like dominoes, the towers of arrogance begin to fall. Every action is precise, measured, invisible. My phone rings more often now. My family grows nervous. Voices tremble. They speak to me suddenly with warmth they never earned. I do not answer. Silence, my former prison, has become my weapon. And the city, which once walked through me, now feels my presence without understanding why. They gather today, my children, my grandchildren, in my living room. The same room they used to rush through on their way to better plans. Now they sit like uneasy students, waiting for a verdict they cannot name. They know something is wrong. Something is shifting under their lives like ground before an earthquake. They feel the consequences but cannot trace the cause. I enter slowly, not for effect, but because age demands it. They stand when I appear. For the first time in years, they stand. No one speaks. I look at each of them, really look, and let the silence do what words never could. Their eyes drop. They understand. Not everything, but enough. I am not vengeful. Not furious. Just awake. They had forgotten that age does not erase strength, it distills it. Makes it sharper. More deliberate. An old mind sees patterns the young overlook. That night, in my notebook, I write my final entry. Old age is not a sunset. It is a different kind of dawn, one that terrifies those who mistake gentleness for weakness. And with that, I close the book. Not as a man seeking revenge, but as a man who has reclaimed his name.
Subscribe and like this video, more interesting revenge stories of elderly people coming soon.